Hey, how's it going? I just wanted to drop a quick message to you. Sometimes the people who are in your life are the ones who, if you're having, any bouts with like mental health issues or anything like that, sometimes it's the people in your life helping to cause those things. And then they recommend that you go see a therapist. It's like they do all these sort of like crazy making behaviors, like not answering direct questions or gaslighting you or like making you question your own reality, stuff like that. and and then they later ask you, like, when these things start to envelop you, and they start to affect you emotionally and psychologically, spiritually even, and it's visibly troubling. It becomes visible, like, that something's wrong with you. That same person will cozy up next to you, like, "Oh, what's wrong? What's wrong with you? Why are you like this?" And then as soon as you try to explain to them, what happened or why you feel a certain way about something that they did, they immediately like attack you, and they make you feel bad for feeling the way you feel about how they made you feel. So it's like a cycle, you know. Um, and it's sort of like the arsonist is the one who calls the fire department to put out the same fire that they started. And then when the firefighters show up, asking the arsonist what happened, the arsonist is like, "I don't know. I don't know what happened." It just I was out here. All of a sudden, the thing burst into flames, and then the firefighters leave, and the arsonist goes to the next property and does the same thing again, and then they call 911. And they do the same thing to the firefighters. I have no clue. I don't know. I don't know who could have done this. It's like that, but only you're in either a friendship or a relationship with that person, or maybe it's even a family member. Um, I would say definitely pray. Rely on Christ. You may even have to like distance yourself from a person like that, because they're not going to see themselves. They don't see the things that they do wrong. As a matter of fact, they more than likely are the ones who are highly critical of other people instead of being critical for themselves, like, and self-reflecting and things like that. They are typically ones that are like self-righteous. They don't think they can do any wrong. um so I mean, I'm not saying, you know cut them out of your life as if they never existed, but what I am saying is, you may be in a situation that is not healthy for you. And when push comes to shove, everybody has a breaking point, which I said in my last video, that you could potentially explode on this person. And then when you do explode on this person, they get to act like, "Oh, I don't know what happened. I don't know why this person is reacting the way that they reacted." And then they get to showcase that explosion to the masses, to the general public, as, "See, everybody, it's them, it's not me. They're the one that's crazy." Um, so happened to me. So, but I'll also say too, even to that point, simping. Y'all probably know this term, simping, to be a simp and all this. Um, that the young folks say, I got all this gray in my beard. That the young folks, the youngins say, um, it's like being overly, showing like an over zealous amount of affection towards a person, or kind of doing a lot for them, but then receiving nothing in reciprocity. I've had that too. Simping is a form of idolatry. It actually is idolatry. You're putting something above God. You're not. You're actually replacing God with them. And so you're focused on pleasing them, making sure they're okay. These people are like, they're like opportunists, and they're attracted to that sort of generosity, that sort of um, that overzealousness, and wanting to gratify this person or whatever. um, it's wrong behavior, because you are not giving that sort of love and affection and attention to your creator. You're putting the person that you're simping for first, which it's unhealthy to do. It's unfair for you to do that to yourself, because that person doesn't love you. As a matter of fact, if they allow you to worship them, they allow you to tell them, well, I worship the ground you walk on, and I worship you. Arguably, and I'm gonna say this, they're exercising a form of witchcraft that they may or may not be aware of that they're performing. But if they're allowing you to worship them, if they're allowing you to tell them these things, and to take the opportunity to like do these things for them, and they don't object to that, they don't say, hey, don't worship me. Like they don't put a boundary up to tell you not to treat them as if they are God on earth, then that person is taking advantage of you. And you need to probably step back and reevaluate that too. I'm speaking on things that I've been through myself, so I'm not saying anything that's like stuff that I don't know about. These are things I've been through myself. So but yeah, just kind of evaluate that. I was in a relationship with a witch. Like we as a matter of fact, we both had we were like Christians in name only, say quote unquote Christians in name only. um we were both adulterers, we were both fornicators, we were both liars, deceivers, whatever. And but she had left the faith earlier than I did. And it was for like some mundane reasons. In the Bible, she saw something that she didn't like, so she um, left the faith because of something that she didn't cognitively understand or agree with. And as for me, I'd been wrestling with God my entire life, and I had never really had a relationship with God like that I felt, or that I wouldn't say feel, but that I could comprehend. Like I could never comprehend a relationship with God. And I struggled with even believing in God, and believing that we had a creator, and all of this stuff. And so, but yeah, so by the time we had gotten to a stage of like wanting to apostatize, if that's the word, or become apostates of the faith, which we were both really never really a part of. As First John says, if they were of us, they would have remained with us. But them leaving from us shows that they were never really of us. So we, had both talked to each other. I was in a marriage that was coming to a close, and she, was privy to this information. She had known, as a matter of fact, she had known my wife for like 7 years, before we began our illustrious affair. And so we both, like towards the end of my marriage, we started talking about how we felt about Christianity, and how we both started to think that it was BS, and how it was, something that we started to make fun of together. We started to, and she would tell me about these different things that she was doing, these occult practices, what they were, but praying to ancestors, and looking into the Yoruba religion, and all these different gods and goddesses, from who we were in Africa, and who our ancestors were, and things of that nature. And then she would also intertwine Eastern religion and, chakras and vibrations and, all this different kinds of stuff. What was the other thing? Astroplaning, that was another thing. And but I think she had also gotten it from a guy she was in a relationship previously with, and who in that relationship she believed that she was a goddess, um, reincarnated, named Arishkagil. And so this carried over into our relationship. And there would be times when, before we would become sexually active with one another, she would call upon this Arishkagil, which now, looking back at it, was a demon, of course. And I would actually see her manifest in this, in my ex. Like, eyes would roll in the back of her head and all this stuff. And voice would change. And it was kind of scary. Like aura. It looked like the aura around her became sort of darkened. but yeah, this was real stuff. And so it kind of became a part of our relationship structure, which was like, all about adhering to these paganistic practices. And and I thank God that he started to, like, one thing that I have observed, that if God wants you, if he wants to like pluck you out of something, if he wants to regenerate your heart, when he chooses you, the things that are not working around you will intensify. It seems like, it seems like that. I could be wrong, but it was just my experience, and so yeah, we had a really bad, terrible breakup. But in the midst of that, even in the relationship, there were things going on that were like toxic between us. We would constantly start arguing about things relative to the treatment of one of my children by her. She didn't like the fact that I had a child who was not biologically my child from my first marriage, and but I still considered that child, like my child. I was there when the child was born and everything, and yes, the child was conceived from an affair from my first wife, and but I still consider that child, my child, and I would, want the child to interact with, me and my other two children, and and to be treated as family, But my partner at the time, she didn't want that, and she also didn't like my first wife, and so those feelings of animosity that she had towards my first wife were then transferred onto the child, and she started to abuse my toddler, or again, not my child biologically, but she started to abuse that child for about a year and a half. And and I wanted to, what I should have done is, the first sign I saw of it, I should have ended the relationship. But remember what I was saying earlier about simping? You'll put a person first before even sometimes your own children. When you're in love, or you think you're in love, you're really in lust, and you have issues with, like, esteem and stuff like that, and and you're so concerned about pleasing this person that you will do some stupid stuff. Not making any excuses, it is what it is. Um, but yeah, I should have ended it when I first saw indications of it. Instead, I was trying to work with, this person, and hope that her attitude would change towards the child, and she'd become more affectionate towards the child, which she did. Um, And there were some other things too that, again, inside of that relationship, and it seemed like, like towards the end of that relationship, as it started to fizzle out, she would sort of like do more and more things that would kind of like, she would flirt with other people or the other guys right in front of me. And then, later on, if I were to bring it up, she would then sort of like verbally beat me up for addressing it, for like seeing what I saw, and yeah, it was crazy, it was insane, it was intense, and it was not of God. It was all not of God. Like I said, I've made a lot of poor choices. I won't even call them mistakes. I'd say I've made poor choices, poor life choices, and they've resulted in a lot of catastrophe. I won't even lie. Um, but what I'm discussing with you is like the tip of the iceberg. It's just like I would hope that my mistakes and my poor life choices could be a deterrent for other people to not fall into. Um, I would also hope that, I was watching a video a couple of days ago of a gentleman who has his own channel, and he said something very profound. He said, even in his life, he made a lot of mistakes and wrong choices that resulted in, because sin has consequences, and my sins have had consequences. I've lost things, I've lost people, I've lost uh, homes, everything. And this guy was the same way. And he said, you know, God has the ability to restore, He has the ability to redeem, and He has the ability to, if He wanted to, He could change my life to where I'm not in the position or condition that I'm in. However, He has also the sovereignty and the right not to. And if He wanted to leave my life the way it is to be an example of what not to do, then so be it. And I think I'm in the same place as well. Like I pray that, you know, even if God doesn't, and I said this in the last video, even if God never sees fit to help in getting my life in a certain way that I would like to see it, I don't deserve it. Number one. But number two, it's His will. And even if my life remains the way it is, in a way that people can look at it and go, yeah, that's not, yeah, look at what that guy did, and look at how his life turned out, I'm not going to do those things, then that's great. That's great. That's another soul saved, and another person who learns from another person's downfall or another person's poor life choices, so that they don't make those choices themselves. And look, even King Solomon, he had, he was considered the wisest man in the world. But then by the time it came towards the end of his life, he acted in a way that was against God. He did exactly what God told him not to do, and he started to accumulate a bunch of wives and concubines that were not of the faith that he was of, and they started to make him worship their gods. So God cursed his later generations. But yeah, I'm just saying all that to say, I'm praying for you, and please pray for me as I pray for you. Leave a prayer request in the comments if you want. It's up to you. You can be explicit, or you can just be vague, but you'll still be prayed for. Like, share, and subscribe. God bless.